owner, because the contract between the city and the property owner, again, this is rooted to the property. There will be a contract enforcing the provisions of the grant, so that, again, the contract will be with the city and the owner, so that any lease or any improvements that they would like to see, they can work with the owner on that. We'd be happy to help them with that. We would recommend requiring that buildings be up to code. Anything that's not up to code, but grandfathered in, so to speak, at this point in time, would be up to code after the project were completed. So that could be a part, as long as they were up to code today. As long as they met all our code requirements by the end of the project, that could be a valid facade of the project. Taxes and business licenses, we would expect that those be up to date. In other words, property taxes that the county and the city would pay. You do have a current existing business license on file. This is more ineligibility than eligibility, but no adult businesses. We want to promote quality redevelopment in East Ridge, and no adult businesses would be applicable. No new construction projects. We're trying to reward property owners, the business property owners that have been investing in East Ridge for years. That's really what we're trying to do here and trying to accomplish. So no new construction, and no buildings owned by city officials or city staff. I think the reason for that matter is just to avoid any perception of any kind of activities. The grant improvements range from paint masonry work, window replacement, awnings, roof facades, signage on the property, and landscaping and parking. As far as the contract and reimbursement of the funds, we would expect that any reimbursable fund would need to be spent before the city paid anything out to the individual which had an approved project, and that approval were signed off on in advance. In other words, the project would need to be approved before any monies were expended for the applicant. We would also expect a contract term of 5 years. During that 5 years, if we got into a scenario where the project weren't completed, the city would ask the money be returned. If for some reason the project were completed and a business went out of business 3 years into the project, we would weigh that proportionally. In other words, 60% of the funds, we wouldn't ask for that, but we would ask for the other 40% of the funds. And again, the goal here is quality redevelopment, and we want to see the objective, which is beautification, redevelopment. We want to see that. We don't want to be legalistic, but we would expect that. In trying to strike a balance between fairness and achieving that objective, we would ask that money come back, and we can put it back into the program. If a business were to close, again, we do ask that the business, a business do remain in business during the term of the contract. If a business were to close, I suggested 6 months. We could give the business owner a 6-month period to fill that vacant space in order for there to be an operating business in place during the term of the contract. And let's say it took 6 months, using that as an example. If it took 6 months to fill the space, then we could extend the contract term for an additional 6 months. So the idea is not to take that money away or say, no, you're no longer eligible. Again, the goal being to try to see this project through so that we can get quality redevelopment up in Ringgold Road, especially, or anywhere we have commercial, C1 and C2 in East Ridge. If you have any questions or feedback, I certainly appreciate it.
On this, you think if this were any of our businesses that come in during this year, we do all this for the loss?
Countervailing, I don't. In fact, I think this will encourage business activity in East Ridge, whether that's, it'll show existing business owners, folks that want to start a new business, that the city is committed to local businesses, that the city is committed to entrepreneurship in East Ridge. That not only, we don't want to just see you do it well and do it right, we want to reward you, we want to help you do it better. And if you've got a great idea to improve the roof or the frontage of your building, you want to stucco or brick, because the nearby buildings are the same character. We want to help you do that. We know the businesses, they go into business because they want to succeed. We want to help you do that. And again, we certainly want to reward folks that have done business here for years. So I think this would encourage more business activity and encourage existing business owners to reinvest. And that's what we're supposed to do. Big picture is reinvestment.
Who's going to make the decision on who qualifies for this program and who doesn't?
That would be a decision that we would make, city staff. We're hired to do that very thing. We would judge each project based on the merits of the project, how it meets the objectives in the proposal in front of you. I think first come, first served basis, as it states in the first come, first served basis, and does it fulfill the objectives and the existing policies of the city council. We certainly put together a committee. That would be another approach.
I felt like part of what we would do, first come, first served, first qualified, we would use the building codes, building inspector, we'd use the codes office, codes enforcement to make sure that we're following all, everybody's up to speed, no code violations, I've got their business license, and their plans meet what are acceptable as far as the plan goes. It would be a team effort that would be done at the staff level.
I think we've got the staff working in it, I'm confident in that. Should the council determine that's correct.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, the gentleman may remember, if I'm not mistaken, we did this once before, and it ended up being, and don't take this wrong, I know you wouldn't end up throwing those slurs against nobody, but we tried this once before, and it ended up being a buddy situation. If one of their buddies wanted to set up, get theirs looking better, and the guy next door, they forgot about him, was going on, done the buddy thing.
Well, if you know anything about me, I don't have any friends
No, I said
here.
I
So I don't think we have any problems when we have any buddies, because I don't have any friends, so we got that under control.
That's the reason I said, we have a problem now.
Councilman, I'm also not very well liked, so that would be a problem.
I really doubt we're going to have that.
Birds of a feather here. On second thought, Mayor, on second thought, I'm giving him the snakes.
Glad we could work that out.
Speaking of the codes, did you say that the existing business is going to be grandfathered in on the existing codes, like the ones that don't have the sprinkler systems in, and if they apply for the 10,000, they get it, they don't have to come in compliance with the sprinklers?
Oh, you said
They would need to be in compliance by the end of the project, even if that wasn't a part of the facade improvement. So if they applied for, if they were grandfathered in, and if that was what they were grandfathered on, and I use that term because that's what everybody can relate to that. But if that was the only thing that prevented them from being up to a current code, but they were exempt because they operated that business before the code was adopted. If that were the case, by the end of let's say they had a sign project, by the time that sign project and that 5-year period were over, and that sign project was closed out, we would need to see, and I think in there, by the time 80% of the funds had been dispersed, we would need to see that property up to code and meeting the specifications and the criteria.
So it would no longer be
No longer be grandfathered.
grandfathered or a legal non-conforming.
Yeah.
Sometime in that 5 years, they'll have to put sprinkler
They have
systems in.
to have the sprinkler system.
Then they come back and apply for another grant, we've got the money available to put sprinkler systems in.
We would probably have to, our program typically is for the outside.
Yeah.
We can expand it to include
But
the inside
I
at some
read this
point.
thing where it could be major renovation.
If that was a component, if that was an element of a larger project, but this is not intended to bring people up to code.
Correct.
That again, because we don't want to
code violation.
we don't want to if I own a business, it's up to me to fix non-compliance with the code violation. But if you can squeeze that into a project, and that if you remedied as a part of the program, that's correct.
At this point, it's not a code violation, and not have a sprinkler
Yeah.
system.
Yeah, that's not against.
That's not a code violation.
Then, if I understand him right, then before the project is finished, they've got to be up to code.
It would need to be up to code by the end of the project.
And then that includes the sprinkler system.
Depending on what the business is, I imagine.
Sprinklers, we keep saying sprinklers. Sprinklers depend on both things. It depends on square footage, the type of occupancy, things of that nature. Most of these businesses that we have on Ring Road are small. You know, if they're small businesses, there's not that requirement. What we have discussed is more of a beautification.
Yeah, I understand.
And basically, if you go down south and we go to some of these Florida cities and we see this is East Ridge's opportunity, you know, to put back in our community and give back to the business owners. You know, and I don't mean to take anything away from the Thad, but being out here, living out here, I think this is a great opportunity for the city. Being over code enforcement, I think this is one of the best times that the city has ever had to have that opportunity to take that Rossville Boulevard and look away, if you would. We've heard it years and years and years. You know, every one of us has either said it or heard someone say it. It's turned into Rossville Boulevard, it's turned into this, turned into that. Well, this is our opportunity. This is our opportunity to put back into the community, to beautify the city, and we've got to start somewhere. And I think this is one of the best opportunities that the city has ever had. I really do.
I think
We've
there's-
got to.
Yeah, and with all the excitement about the new businesses coming in, and it is wonderful, but, you know, those new businesses are gonna take care of themselves.
Yeah.
But there are some existing businesses that have been here for years and years and years, who have been very, very loyal to the city and have a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, as the saying goes. And this is an opportunity to help pick them up and help them to be potentially more competitive with these new places that can come in.
And typically, we all forget about small business. Small business makes up, I would say, probably 90% of business, especially here in the city of East Ridge. And what better way for the city of East Ridge to support our small business? And at the same time, to have that opportunity to beautify the city. We've got to set our standard, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to come in and say, if we can set these standards, we can go from this point forward and be a part of that beautification. It's not that we're trying to come down on people and try to change codes or anything like that. It's more of a beautification type of situation. I really believe that. I think it's a great opportunity for the city. That's completely up to you.
You're talking about the outside beautifying the outside.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay.
And obviously, we have, you know, quite a bit of information here to look over and kind of work out,
The
but
reason I asked that question is because some property owners might have the 20,000 put up front to get the 10,000 back, but then knowing 4 or 5 years later down the road when they get finished with this project, then they're gonna have to come up and spend another 20 or 30,000 to come into compliance with the.
If they've got a business with that much square footage, they should be able to afford that. And I don't mean
Well, I
that in a bad
understand
way.
that, but right now, they don't, it's not required.
Councilman Cagle, you don't need all the money up front. The way that, or at least the way that we're proposing the program, if you were to apply and you presented your project application, and we receive that, we approve it, staff goes through the review process, approves that project, so it is a go. If you were to spend $500 on the first stage, maybe that was an architectural drawing, then we would reimburse that one piece at a time. You could, in other words, you could do it in phases and stages, and you'd have 5 years to do it. So you wouldn't have to put up the whole 10,000 at one time.
all right, well, thank you very much, and certainly, again, we have plenty of information to review, and I think, just speaking for me, I'm in favor of this program. There may be some bits and pieces here that we want to tweak, but in general, it sounds like a good idea. So, again, we will consider this at a future time. I've got plenty of information to look over in the meanwhile. We'll move to item C, scheduling a workshop for discussion of the sign ordinance. This is an issue near and dear to my heart, so yes, I would love to try to schedule a workshop. Unless staff has a recommendation, I would suggest maybe March 19th. That's the Thursday between the two council meetings in March. I would say 5:30 if that works for everyone. Larry, does that give you enough time? If that works for everybody.
I won't be here.
You know,
I'm a presenter for an honor society.
okay, gotcha. And if someone would like an alternate date, certainly we could do that as well.
That date's fine. About the time,
And
it's fine, it's fine.
maybe a brainstorming session, a workshop. We have John Bridger here from RPA, and he kind of would lead off and lead that for us, and it could be more information, and we can, I'm sure there'd be more than one workshop.
Right, this is probably not going to be the only workshop we have. Okay. So we'll shoot for that date and for this first workshop and go from there. And I know we have several items that we've been kind of talking about the potential need for workshops for transportation issues, and still would like to look at that in the near future as well. But there are a couple of different items that we will need to address in the very near future. So I'm glad we're scheduling this and getting the ball rolling on this one at least. All right. Item D, approval to waive or reduce fees for District 12-0 Lyons in Tennessee to use the community center June 9th through 11th. I think we talked about this briefly the last time.
Yes.
And the reason it's 3 days, I think this was going to be kind of the headquarters,
Yes.
I think, for the group.
I was just going to make a motion to approve.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right. We have a motion in a second. Do you have any questions? Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Cagle,
Yes.
Councilmember Manning,
Yes.
Councilmember Stoll,
Yes.
Mayor Lambert.
Yes.
If I let Stump start talking, be here for another 30 minutes.
All right, item E, discussion of an ordinance limiting clusters of payday loan, title bond, and cash advance.
Mayor, I put this on here in light of recent movement in Chattanooga, with the city of Chattanooga. I thought this would be an excellent time for us to address it. We do have a couple of payday loan organizations that have moved in. It's not to regulate them. We obviously cannot do that, but it's more or less to just keep them where they don't build all in one shopping plaza. Commissioner Cagle brought a good point up to me a couple days ago. You know, it's going to be a property line. We've got to address that type of thing. I think we're at the point where maybe I could get the city attorney, we could come up with something to propose and discuss at this point. Did I express what you had told me on that one thing?
As I read Chattanooga's, it said property line, 1,320 foot. And the property line, from where we put one to another one, that goes from property line to property line, 1,320 foot, the way Chattanooga's reads. And then 500 foot to residential. From property line to property line,
So we need to define that. We need to come up with, if indeed you want to proceed forward with this, I just want to
I'm
put it
not
out
pushing it.
because
We,
we seem to have quite a bit of
Move
this.
forward with this. Okay, essentially to have staff try to draft something up for us to look at. Bring something, okay.
Well, let me make sure the council understands. What we're talking about is the clustering of where we, as Councilman Cagle recognized, where we put these, allow these facilities in the future now. There's nothing we can do as of the ones that are already in place and existing. We can only do it prospectively, as they call it. So I just want to make sure everyone understands that when we go forward.
The reason why I brought that up is, for example, Osborne Shopping Center, okay, property line starts where, folks, down there at Kingwood Pharmacy, it goes all the way up there to the motel. So, that's the reason why I brought it up. Are we gonna go from door to door and do something like that? Or are we gonna go from property line to property line and in our strip malls?
All right, we have a motion, did you second? Okay, we have a motion and a second to authorize staff to work on something to bring back to us. Have any other comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Griffin.
Yes.
Councilmember Cagle.
Yes.
Councilmember Manning.
Yes.
Councilmember Sewell.
Yes.
Mayor Lambert.
Yes. Item F, discussion and approval of a community service program.
Thank you, Mayor. Judge Helton and I have been discussing this. He actually brought it to my attention that he currently, I don't want to use an inappropriate term, but sentences people to community service and they go into Hamilton County. We have an opportunity to bring them into and to benefit directly from people to do community service that are far, on some of our streets, picking up trash in certain areas and that sort of thing, and have a financial benefit from that. I have talked to TML, and there is no issues as long as we aren't violating state law with certain things, and of course, you understand all that, obviously, and I asked Judge Helton to come if y'all had any questions about that, but I'd like to get a blessing for us to start working out a program to move forward, maybe with the city attorney, and get our process set up and our program in place. So this is a 7-day-a-week program, and something that we really feel like we would directly benefit, both from a financial standpoint and a standpoint of looking better. They can paint buildings, they can wash cars, they can pick up trash, they can nothing with power tools. We keep them away from that sort of thing. We would have to have an employee who supervises these individuals and carries them to where they need to be. So
Why can't they do anything with power tools? I mean, I've seen them in Florida, I've seen them in Georgia with cutting grass and weed eating and stuff like that.
They can. We can get them to sign. We do have a document. They can sign a waiver. I just think that creates a higher liability. Should something happen and I can be mad at you, and all of a sudden I can come at you and I can take care of business right. Hopefully we don't have anybody like that, Judge. But you know what I mean. Brent and I we won't be there, by the way. That's just an example. Brent and I were there.
I bet it makes a difference in TML.
I believe I mentioned that today, didn't I, Diane, if I wasn't mistaken, about power tools, and she agreed, yes, that was, we would have staff that would be there to help with power tools, and they could carry limbs off, and that's the way they could help us.
Yeah, maybe we can kind of explore what potentially could be some gray area there.
Sure.
Obviously you don't want them to have, chainsaws or.
Well, I mean, they
Weed eaters.
weed eating around the fences at Camp Jordan, lining the fields,
Right.
all that kind of stuff. Would you like to come up, Judge Helton, and explain the
I think
program?
you would, yes. I recognize you, Judge.
If y'all have any questions, I'll be more than happy
What's
to
that?
answer how
I'd like to
how
say-
it works now.
I'd like to say, I think it's a great idea, and I appreciate you bringing that forward.
Judge, the one question that our risk manager had today was about the DUIs and how that is affected. If you could just.
But what's required under the DUI statute, everyone that is convicted of DUI as a first offender must perform 3 8-hour days of litter pickup. It's specific in the DUI statute for DUIs. There are a slew of other offenses that are sentenced to do public works. As it stands now, if someone is convicted of DUI in East Ridge Court, we sign an order for them to go do their litter pickup in Hamilton County. They pay Hamilton County $168 to do their 3 days of public service work.
So the offender pays for the program,
Yes.
for the privilege.
Correct. Now, for someone that's charged with shoplifting that has to do public works, it's not limited to picking up trash, and generally they do not pay as high a fee, but they generally do more days of work also.
So this would help to offset the cost of having an officer there and picking them up, transport.
Well, you don't have to have an officer, just an employee. It's not any kind of probation, supervision, or anything like that. It's just to get them to where they need to be. I think the best way for it to work probably is that they meet at a central location and the city's van takes them to, whether it's Camp Jordan or whatever, especially in the summer months. There'll be plenty of paper to pick up at Camp Jordan, which will reduce the staff needs for poking paper.
And exactly, if it was nothing more than just litter pickup, goodness, do we have some litter that can be picked up in East Ridge? My goodness.
Right, and
absolutely.
my thought was, before I ever ran, and every week we sentence people to do public works that go to Hamilton County. And if they're going to commit a crime in East Ridge, let them pick up trash in East Ridge as opposed to, because I've never seen any Hamilton County folks out here. I see them on the interstate all the time, but they don't come to East Ridge to pick up paper.
Did we had a plan like that once before, but it was, I don't know why they discontinued. Was it through the?
Probably have before. I mean,
The sheriff's
this company reported to the jailhouse and on their own, that when they wasn't housed at the county, they just reported here and done their time served, and then,
Yeah, they used to be able to serve their 48 hours here and things like that on a DUI, but there weren't requirements at that time that they do community service. This is just strictly people that have to do community service that are on generally unsupervised probation.
Well, who would effectuate and monitor the program? The clerk's office or
Well,
just a regular city employee?
the way it would work, we would sign an order on Tuesday night. It's a 3-part order. Court keeps a copy, the offender gets a copy, and then a copy would go to whoever is, I don't say managing the program, because during the week the person has to come and get signed up and pay their money. After that, they would just report on whatever days they wanted to do, and they would be there at whatever time is set, whether it's 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. And that would be it for whoever is signing them up and everything, and then it's for the person who is monitoring them for the day.
Well, I guess that's my question. Who determines, Joe Smith has this and he is sentenced to community service or something like that. Who tells him where to be, when to be there, and then who follows up when he's not there?
The order gives him 3 days or 5 days to report.
Yeah.
And whoever is working through the city, whoever is designated by the city manager, would get a copy of that order, know that Joe Smith has to report within 5 days of this date to get signed up. In the same order, there's a cutoff time for them to do their 5 days of public works or 3 days of public works. If they don't have it by that time, then whoever the city's person is would just report back to the court. They did it or they didn't do it.
You issue a bench warrant and then
We'd issue a warrant if they didn't do it and take care of it from there.
How many do you sentence on Tuesday? I mean, on.
It could be.
What I'm trying to say is this sound like we may need somebody that their particular job, that's what they're going to be doing.
Well, no, the person that signs them up, it's going to be, they would have to be available throughout the day.
Well, could the clerk do that part, and then whoever, what I'm saying is whoever's got to watch them, it sounds like we're going to have somebody.
Well, whoever's watching them,
We're going to
they don't necessarily have to stand over them the whole time, but that would be a designated person on any given day.
That's what I was saying. If we have, that's why I was asking, how many do you generally do?
It can run from 5 to 10 a week.
But you think the court clerk could handle or somebody in her department handle that part where they report back and pay their money?
Well, no, I think it would have to go to a separate person because that money doesn't go into the clerk's coffers. That goes into the city's coffers.
part of what I've done is designated Marilyn Tilley
Okay.
for that
That's what I was-
responsibility. That's why she's been located where she is, going to be working with Melvin and with Stump majority of the time for the park and for the street. They will designate somebody who is there. We've also got code enforcement that works now on weekends, so that individual would take the weekend shift and would monitor that person. So we've got a 7-day system worked out now because we will allow them to work 7 days. So we've got a program in place. We've just recently gone to 7 days a week in the codes department.
Well, we've got someone to handle the paperwork, it sounds like. It sounds like you've got that squared away. May I suggest, possibly using some of the reserve officers as far as monitoring the people or something like that? I mean, could we possibly do that? And you don't have to come up here, you can answer from back there, Chief. I mean, is that something we could use reserve officers for?
Well, that, or in that case, if we have them down at the park, then we have a park officer that will be available as well.
There you go.
And the other thing we have, if we have any employees that have to be put on light duty, for whatever reason, because of a workers' comp claim, and to get them back to work, this is also somewhere where we could plug these individuals in. We never have had a light duty before, especially in the city services area. This would be the perfect place to plug that person in. Should we have that? And occasionally, we've only had 3 cases this year, but in case, if we did have one, that would be perfect for that.
Nothing, do we have to feed them while they're here or anything? Bring them.
I think this is something that needs to be done, but I think you're gonna find that it's gonna require a dedicated, full-time employee to monitor this situation. I don't think you can just dedicate somebody for an hour or 2 a day.
I think we
That's
need
what we
to
had
look
to
at it
do,
as
last
well.
time we had it, that's what we had to do then, it had to be full-time employee.
And Marilyn is full-time, and that's what
We're
she's
talking
going to be
about
doing
watching.
full-time. Nobody can work 7 days a week, so it's got to be multiple people.
But do I understand, though, that we can charge something comparable to what the county does, and then maybe the program is self-sustaining financially?
Yes, I don't see any problem with the city setting the fees at the same thing that the county does it for. And it's specifically provided in the DUI statute. That's why it's so much more. But $168 for one DUI to do 3 days public works, that mounts up real quick.
Right.
That's good to me.
Would you not, not think it might be best to have an officer out there with them?
It's not a situation where, the worst possible scenario, I think, is they walk off.
We had some last time.
Let them walk off.
Their vehicle's going to be parked here at
Yeah.
the community center, and they'll be driven to their, so they can be at the park. If they're going to walk off, they're coming back here.
The county doesn't. The county doesn't have, all they have is a driver. They don't have a law enforcement officer there.
Right.
These are non-violent offenders.
But it's all misdemeanors.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, this is not like when we were growing up, you saw this chain gang, and the leg on the guy with the shotgun.
We need to bring the chain gangs back.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's another.
State Representative Bradley.
Absolutely. Bring it back.
But to answer your question, if they decide they don't want to work and they walk off, they don't get credit for that day. So that's up to them.
And you have them picked up, and you,
Right, they violated and
We've got a preliminary, got a 2-step process. They come and they check in with Maryland. They'll come over to the cashier and pay their fees across the street. It's not a big deal. They can walk across the street. They're going to be parking right over here or behind, or right over here is going to be designated parking. And then the van picks them up right here and takes them where they, and that starts at 7 a.m. and at 3:30 they're dropped back off here. And they have a lunch break, and that's as far as we've gotten. And until we got to this point, we didn't go.
right.
This is a question that may have a very easy answer. I just don't know what that would be. What if you drop someone off and they just don't get a lick of a snake? I mean, they don't do anything. They're there physically, but they don't pick up a lot of trash. You have someone who monitor. I mean,
Well, it's not someone that you have to, the drop-off person can drop them off, or, they're going to direct them, okay, y'all are going to walk this area and clean it up. And there's nothing to stop the drop-off person from driving back by to see if anybody's doing anything or not doing anything. And if they're not, saying, you're not working, you don't get credit for this day.
and the person's got to have the ability to make that call and say, look, I took this person out to the side, but they didn't do anything.
Absolutely. And if they say they didn't do anything, they don't get credit, and then they've got to come back another day. And before long, they'll do the work as opposed to
Having to come back.
having to come back.
Right, right. So, yeah. So it sounds like the possibility exists, you could have a drop-off person who, as you mentioned earlier, doesn't have to stand there over the people all the time, but they still have some responsibility in terms of,
Just monitoring what's going on. You're gonna have somebody, you can't just turn loose 10 people and say, okay, clean up, can't throw it. There's gotta be some kind of direction.
Some kind of welfare check, contact.
And,
all that.
you know, during the week, there's several employees at Camp Jordan. On the weekend, there's employees there, so.
We'll have no problem monitoring in the park. And just like the 3 kids that we get, 3 or 4 kids we get for free every summer, we bring Jimmy Starlin down there, who's been a coach all his life, and he handles that situation. So we'll have no problem with that.
he's pretty good cracking the whip. He's done it before.
Tennessee River Rescue, I see some more volunteers.
Yeah, but there you go. That's right. Yeah, I'm tired of falling down in the creek.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
We do have a motion to approve it. We have a second.
I'll say.
Okay, we have a second. Any other comments or questions? It does sound like a good idea. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Gravitt.
Yes.
Councilmember Cagle.
Yes.
Councilmember Manning.
Yep.
Councilmember Stoll.
Yes.
Mayor Lambert.
Yes. All right, folks, thank you very much for being
Any
here.
excavator? Any excavator, we had.
We did add that, didn't
I thought we did.
we? We talked.
I thought we put it out for bid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought we had to go down it. Did we vote on it already?
Put it out for bid, yes, sir.
Okay.
You're right.
Well, did we lump that into the?
Then we lumped it.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd like to check on the status
Got a lot
of the
more.
pipes for the library parking lot.
Okay.
Yeah, we got them ordered,
Yeah, I thought we were gonna use one in the park.
We had to place the bulb.
We
We got the
did.
bulb ordered, we're gonna do everything.
All right.
Now, we do have one thing that did carry over. Thank you, Diane, for keeping us straight on that. It is the border region, the cleanup on the border region, resolution that was passed last time, and we have to tweak it a little bit. So that is resolution 2461. It was in red on our work session agenda. I apologize for failing to mention that at the beginning of this meeting that we had added it.
Resolution. This is my microphone. The resolution would essentially do the same thing that the council did last meeting by motion at the last meeting, only do the same by resolution in simpler language. In other words, in the last meeting, it was very specific on what the council wanted the amendment to do. Representative Gravitt knows and understands what the city would like to accomplish. We already plan to meet with several other representatives next week at the TML conference on Monday and Tuesday. For the local delegation to be supportive and for the legislative process to work itself out, simple language that the city council would like the local delegation of the Tennessee General Assembly to support an amendment to the Border Region Act for the purpose of that the act was adopted. That's as simple as it needs to be. So that's what's in your packet. We'd appreciate your support of that. Do you have any questions?
Make a motion to approve resolution 2461.
Second. Yes, and the caption for that, thank you, Janet. The caption is a resolution of the City Council of the City of East Ridge requesting that members of the local delegation of the Tennessee General Assembly support an amendment to the Border Region Retail Tourism Development District Act. So just for the record, there's the caption. We do have a motion and a second to approve. Any other comments or questions? Larry. Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Gravitt.
Yes.
Councilmember Cagle.
Yes.
Councilmember Manning.
Yes.
Councilmember Stoll,
Yes.
Mayor Lambert.
Yes. And Mr. Cagle had one question about the lights in the library parking lot.
I got it.
You got it, okay. All right, good deal. That really is it, folks.
Let me,
Well,
hold on a minute. I had a light bulb pop off in my head. We need to revote that.
Okay,
I need to abstain.
okay.
I withdraw one second.
Sorry,
It's from a parliamentary perspective, how do we,
Go ahead and vote it, let him announce the abstention.
Big motion, take it off table, everything.
Yeah, take off the motion in a second and then we'll start from scratch.
Okay, I'll take my motion off the table.
Who was the second?
Second, take the second off.
Okay, now.
okay, now, can we do it again?
I make the motion to approve resolution number 2461.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
let me explain to you why I'm having to redo that. Since I'm a member of the Tennessee General Assembly, I need to abstain for clarification purposes. Because I'll have to vote on it in the General Assembly if it does in fact reach the floor.
Well, then may I ask a question now?
Certainly.
Since you're sitting here on this council, when you get up our vote, you have to abstain.
That's a good question.
We haven't reached that bridge yet.
That's a good question.
I prefer the attorney, but I don't think so because you abstained here.
I'll tell you what, I'll request our city attorney to make that request to get an attorney general's ruling there. How about that?
Well,
That's a good question, though.
But no, if you couldn't vote for any legislation involving your own district, you'd never be able to vote.
That is true.
oh, I know that, but he was sitting on this council, you know,
But he's abstaining here.
and then I was being part of it.
And this just doesn't affect us, this affects others.
Yeah, it affects Bridgeville and Kingsville too, so, anyway.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Griffin,
Abstain.
Councilmember Cagle,
Yes.
Councilmember Manning,
Yes.
Councilmember Stoll,
Yes.
Mayor Lambert.
Yes.
Sorry, guys.
It's okay. That's okay. I think we are finished this time. Have a good evening. Stay safe.